program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's dark, it's gloomy, but we're on the road ready to go, and this is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to, of course, another sunrise safari on Safari Live. Now, my name is Taylor, and on camera today is Sebastian, and we are hoping to find some lions. But before we even get into that, I hope that all of you that are watching, perhaps some of you are new and welcome. This is a live and interactive safari, so this is happening right now, just after 6 o'clock in the morning in South Africa. So if you have any questions for me, or for Jamie, or for Byron, you can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter with all of your questions and we'll get to them. But very exciting. There's been lots of commotion going on throughout the entire evening, which is very, very exciting. Is that the things, of course. We heard lots of lions calling, and not lions. And prize, of course, we had lots of lion tracks this morning. We've had all sorts of goodies, so now we're trying to find them. I'm not going to go down, let Jamie come around and check that side. Let's go back up the way we've come. So I haven't got any more lion tracks coming down this side. And the interesting thing is that there's lion tracks coming down Shortcut Gallagher, and then there were also go to Cut Gallagher. Jamie and I are doing a tag team and hope that both of us will bump into the lions this morning. She's also out bumbling. She's checking the east. Let's go and say to her.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. Taylor is absolutely correct. It's an interesting sound from Wendy. We are indeed tag teaming to try and find those lions. My name is Jamie, and this morning Dave is on camera with me. And I beg your pardon, but I was right in the middle of a conversation. Oh, there we go. There we go. Taylor's on it. Thank you, Taylor. So, nice fresh tracks of lions walking along this road. I'll jump off and try and show you. Let's see what it looks like on the camera first before I take my torch out. If I could find my torch. Okay, so that looks like nothing, really. Hold on a moment, and I will illuminate further. Oh, there you can sort of see. That's better, isn't it, Dave? Let me hop out and show you. Oh, goodness, microphone flying everywhere. And we've still got audio, Dave. My mistake. Oh, it looks like tracks of the entire pride. I think Taylor's probably covered the fact that the Nkuhumas were seen last night on an Inyala bull kill, that they then finished off in the space of just a few seconds, and now we've got a fresh set of tracks, males, females. I don't see any cubs, but this road's already been driven, so I think we'd better hurry along, because the boundary of our property is in that general direction, so I'm not going to linger too long on the tracks themselves. You'll just have to take my word for it that they are lion tracks, and let's go and quickly find them. I'm hoping that we don't have a situation where they've ducked onto Simbambili already. That would not be ideal. Okay. Don't forget, on our live safari, to send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Those will come through my earpiece, which I'm reapplying right now. Let's go. Please don't have crossed. Good morning, Mr. Wallington.
Hey, Graham.
Darby says, hey, Graham, as well. Good morning, Mr. Wallington. My goodness. Oh, of course. I was about to say, this is very early. But, of course, different time zones and all that. How marvellous. Happy birthday, Graham. Well, Wild Earth birthday. And what a special 10 years it has been. Without any further ado, because I know that Byron is out on foot, he is with elephants, let's go and have a quick look.
Good morning everyone and welcome to the Bushwalk. My name is Byron and Senzo is with me on camera this morning. And look what we've managed to find first out, right outside camp, not too far from camp. Beautiful herd of elephant. Now, they've seemed to have spread out quite a bit around this area. And luckily for us, they don't seem too fazed by us just yet. We're actually in a lovely position because there's a drainage line between us and the elephant, so it's a perfect spot to be able to view the elephant. I am still going to keep my voice very low because I don't want to startle them or anything, but they're happily feeding. They're not worried about us at all. That female over there did see us. She did lift her head a little bit and she was looking at us, but then she just moved around the tree and she stopped and carried on feeding. So she obviously decided that we're not a threat. What a great start. This is really, really amazing. I love viewing elephant on foot like this. Just gives you a whole different perspective of them. Just trying to have a look to see if there are any others around. There goes a young one. And I think what we'll also try to do today is see if we can give the girls a hand with trying to track those lions. Not sure how far they've gone. They were very close to camp last night, and I said it yesterday afternoon. You can just hear the elephant calling there. I said it yesterday afternoon, late afternoon. I was hoping that we'd hear the lions calling before the end of drive because we knew they were somewhere nearby, even if it was just north of our boundary. But they didn't. As soon as we got to our fireside chat last night, the lions did start calling in the distance. And then they constantly called during the night and got even closer to camp. They were right outside camp, not very far from us last night. And then they moved off again. So we'll see where they headed. I mean, if we can find them. It sounded like they headed in a westerly direction. So I think Taylor and Jamie might be heading out there to go and have a look and see if they can't find any tracks. But we will definitely try and give them a hand. Looks like all those elephant have moved off now. Heading kind of down towards Gallego Pan, I think. Probably going to see if they can get some water a little bit later. Let's just see, there might be one or two around here still. Alright, well, I'll have a look to see if these elephant have moved off or if they're just feeding in the thicket. While I do that, let's see how Jamie's doing with her search for lions.
My search for lions is still going very positively. Although, on the other hand, it's also taking us right up into what Brent has nicknamed the Bermuda Triangle of Djuma. And the reason we call it the Bermuda Triangle is it's right in the corner of Djuma, and to the north lies Buffelshoek and Manyeleti, and to the west lies Simbambili. So quite a lot of the time when we track things in this direction, they've gone. They've vanished off. Now, just to explain that a little bit to all of you watching, there are certain properties that we can drive on, and there are certain properties that we can't. That applies to all lodges. It's called the Traverse Agreement. Some people can drive certain places, others other places. It's all about not overutilizing one particular property, and of course, making sure that the animals aren't overpressurized as well. So that's why when I say they've disappeared, it's just because they've moved outside of where we can go. Not a disaster, because it works both ways. Sometimes we have them, sometimes we don't. I can hear Franklin's alarm calling. Let us catch up. Mr. Wallington sending through my first question of the morning. Graham, you want to know what is the thing that I'm looking forward to most in the Mara. I'm really tempted to go with the view. I think the view from our campsite looks absolutely spectacular. Otherwise, it's really hard to choose one particular thing. I think I'm looking forward to getting to know different animals. I think I'm looking forward to watching the difference in behavior for animals here, familiar animals, lions, leopards, hyenas, to the way in which they behave in the Mara. Those are the sorts of things. What about you, Dave? Dave agrees. Landscapes. Landscapes are the way forward. I think it's so incredibly exciting. I can barely wait. I'm champing at the bit now. It's hard to believe that it's even really real, but it is, and it's happening. And the lions have gone off the road while I was chattering away. Whoops. Oh dear. My guess is that they've gone that way. Let's just do a quick loop, because they're not on the road at all here. There's no footprints. I would explain the Franklin's alarm calling on Simbambili. Brrr. Oof, the faster you go, the chillier it gets. What's the temperature meant to be again, Lou? 18. 64. Hmm. 18 and 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Positively balmy for some of you that come from colder climes, but for us, this is positively Arctic. Just quickly check what I just saw out of the corner of my eye. You never know, sometimes you can get too focused on tracking one animal and another one pops out. False alarm. There's a white-tailed mongoose. Don't have time to look at white-tailed mongoose tracks right now. Now, Joe and Michael, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. Thank you for sending through your question, and please feel free to send through as many as you can possibly think of. You want to know how many lions there are in this pride? 11. There are 5 females and 6 gorgeous cubs who are now looking at that sort of gangly teenage phase. But we've been fortunate enough to actually watch these cubs grow up from when they were yay big, tiny little bundles of fluff. James used to call them teddy bears. They were utterly adorable. So we've watched them grow up. They're now gangly, long-limbed. Looks like they've grown a little bit too fast for their own bodies to keep up with. Male lion tracks coming along here. And they've been a truly extraordinary pride to watch, just in terms of their behavior. We've seen them go through hardships. We've seen them go through a shift in dominant males over the last 2 years, and of course then having a new set of cubs. They've got a very special place in our hearts. So we see the Nkuhumas probably the most frequently, and then the Styx pride as well, with their brand new cubs. 3 females and 6 cubs of their own. I need to do some focusing on where these tracks go and if they cross. Let's head across to Taylor, because we're working together as a team, so you need an update from her.
We are definitely working as a team this morning, except, Jamie, I have no lion tracks to report back to, so they definitely changed their route and they didn't continue going east. They must have kept going in your direction to the west, but we have stopped. We've got a raptor sitting in the fork of dead knobthorn tree. Now, it's still very, very dark. As you can see, the clouds are quite thick this morning. But just in the fork of the tree... Oh, it's an owl. It's a Verreaux eagle owl. Not a raptor. Well, I suppose it is, but not the raptor that I was thinking of. I thought that possibly, because it is so dark and we couldn't get a clear view. Remember how far we've zoomed in now with the camera. It just looked like it perhaps was going to be a Wahlberg's eagle or something, and I love them. But this is far more exciting to wake up and find an owl, and I've been saying for such a long time now that I've been dying to see a Verreaux eagle owl. So I'm very excited about this, and I hope that you are all excited too. There's even a fork-tailed drongo just sitting above it, just keeping a very close eye on this owl. But that's very exciting to see both of them. Oh, and there it goes. It's just gone down. It just flew off into the distance, down into the drainage line. The drongo was in hot pursuit. chasing after the owl. It was a very quick and brief sighting, and I suspect that owl is now going to find a nice cool spot to rest. And well, what a perfect spot, a drainage line. That's normally where you come across the Verreaux eagle owls, and always down in the southern sector of the Sabi Sand and the big riverbeds that meander through the property. It was really incredible. You could go down there and drive in the middle like you would drive in the Mulati and find 5 or 6 different Verreaux eagle owls. So that was really, really exciting. That might be something cool to come and look at this afternoon on Bushwalk, because I've now seen where it's gone in. I don't think it will move very much more once the sun starts to come out. That was amazing. That was really, really cool. Well spotted, Sebastian. Very, very nice. My first Verreaux eagle eye. You can have a high five for that. That was epic. Wow. To tick all the animals that I'm missing off of my list up in the north, which is very, very nice. And it's, you know what, one thing that I've definitely realized is that how we take animals for granted sometimes. Sometimes I think we need to just take a step back and appreciate the things that we are seeing when we are seeing them. Because, for example, look at the nkuhumas. We haven't seen them for ages. They've been out and about. We just keep missing them. They're moving. It's like they've gone, ha, we figured out the game drive times. And it's like they're moving just in between. They seem to move quite a bit the cover of darkness, which isn't normal, for I suppose, for a lion. But now in winter we should see them more active during the morning, like on a fresh morning like today. I wouldn't describe this morning as being cold. But that was, I'm not sure if I've still got comms. Hear me. What we're going to do now is, as we go through this little dodgy dip, Byron is still walking around. He's helping us track the lions. I hope he has better luck than we have.
It will be good this Rexon and I just thought we spotted something in the tree. It looked like perhaps a ground hornbill. Just trying to see. Rexon, do you still see it? Let's see, maybe it was quite far. Hang on, let's have a look. Sitting up there. They are indeed. It's a little bit far. We can try and show you. You might just see their shapes sitting in the marula tree in the distance. You can just see 2 shapes sitting right up in the tree there. There they are. 2 ground hornbills. That's quite nice. Well done, Senzo. You can just see, and there's the other one, the third one. Oh, lovely. Now this is really special because the ground hornbills are so endangered. I know some of you know most of the birds that we see around here, but every now and then we get to see these ground hornbills, very big birds. And I think they're possibly just waking up. They most likely slept in that tree, in that big marula, in the safety of its branches. And then during the day they'll walk around and they'll look for food. And now these birds do is they walk in a line usually. And as they're walking, they'll look for any insects, reptiles, lizards and snakes, even tortoises. They've got very powerful beaks that will be able to smash open a tortoise shell and feed on it. So that's what these ground hornbills feed on. It's a lovely, lovely sighting of them, 3 up in the tree. Now they are incredibly endangered, as I mentioned, and the main reason is because they don't have a very successful breeding strategy. When they do mate and breed, the female only lays 2 eggs, and usually 1 egg is kicked out the nest by the other chick that hatches first. So it isn't a good way for them to increase their numbers. The other thing is it takes about 7 or 8 years for a chick to reach adult maturity. So that's also not very convenient. There have been a lot of breeding programs to try and help the ground hornbills. So people would go and if they find a nest, take 1 egg and incubate it and try hatch it and release it again into the wild elsewhere. So there's a lot of research and progress trying to be made with the ground hornbills and increasing the numbers. So we've just come out. We just west of quarantine at the moment. It sounds like the lions that we wanted to try and help track have crossed west into Simbambili, unfortunately. But we were following their tracks all along the road and they were heading directly west, and some of the other guides had seen their tracks crossing our boundary. which is unfortunate, but who knows, they may come back again. They may have circled around and come back. Now have a look at this beautiful, beautiful sunrise. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Lovely, lovely, lovely morning. Quite cloudy and overcast, so it's actually trapped in some of the warmth from yesterday. So it's not too cold at the moment, well, not for us on walk. But that's a lovely sunrise. I'm going to watch the sunrise a little bit longer. Now let's head over to Jamie and get an exact update on where she thinks those lion tracks have crossed our boundary.
I don't know where the rumours have come from that the lions have crossed, because I certainly can't find any footprints crossing. I'm now working together with Taxon, who is a lovely guide who works at Djuma, and he's up ahead of me, just triple checking where I've checked already, just to make sure I haven't missed something. But I haven't picked up on any tracks crossing out yet. Just one male lion going into Simbambili, but not all of them. Oh, there we go. Got confirmation. Copy, thanks, Tax. Byron's rumours were sadly true. Seems as though they've got tracks of the pride crossing to the west. I want to go see where those tracks are. I did not see them the first time round. The ground is very hard though, and the light is tricky at this time of morning. Let's just double check here. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. Next time we'll win some. Where are these footprints coming across? Standing by, Taylor. Probably continue along 11 and make my way back towards Misikaya. Copy, no problem. So I'm just coordinating with Taylor as to which way we're all going to go and what our plans are for the morning, so that we don't end up checking the same place. Sure. Alright, if you say so. Apparently the lions have crossed here. I can barely see a track in the road. Oh, I can better get out of the way. But it unfortunately appears to be the case. Oh, there we go. Alright, you can have a look down on my left there if you want to see what invisible lion tracks look like. It's one of those things when the ground is hard and rocky. Tracks are basically invisible. Dave, I can't see a track there. But they have crossed. Alright, onwards. Those of you who are more familiar with our lingo may have guessed my plan from here. I'm going to go and search this boundary for shadow quickly, and if I don't have any luck there, I'm going to go to the hyena den. And maybe our little bundles of joy are out, since our lions have deserted us for now. And who knows what other things we may encounter along the way. The trick of this road is to drive it early, so that the tracks aren't driven over by other people. I need to crack on with that and make sure that Shadow hasn't wandered along this road. Let's find out what Taylor's plans are now that our lion plans have been foiled.
Silly lions lying about all day. They're moving around all night. That's very sneaky of them to disappear off of the property just before the sunrise safari. But we are now driving along Central. We've about to Cheetah, and that's exactly where we're going to pop out. And as we're driving about. And the other day we were talking about animals running in.
Oh dear, looks like Taylor's going through a bit of a dodgy area at the moment, but don't worry, follow us, we're still on our walk. So it sounded like, I know Jamie said she didn't see any tracks crossing, but it sounded like one of the other guides did. So I do think that Pride did cross our boundary, unfortunately. Now have a look at this, just look down the road at the moment. See all these tracks and little signs that we've seen in front of us. Now this is from elephant. Now I think this is possibly from that herd of elephant we saw earlier. I'm just trying to have a look around here. See, we've got some broken branches. This is the silver cluster leaf that they've broken and torn. Have a look at that. They've torn this off. This is very fresh. This is from maybe an hour ago. The branch is still quite moist, and there has been a lot of moisture in the air at the moment, but you can see it's broken off. It's still very, very fresh. So it's maybe an hour ago, maybe even less. So that's a good sign. These elephants, I do think it is that herd that we saw though. Just trying to have a look around here. All these tracks. Look how they've probably been standing here, and we watched some elephant doing it yesterday. What they like to do is go and scrape their feet in the ground, and then they pull up these grass shoots and roots, and then that's how they feed on it. So they will scrape up that all this grass using their feet, and then that's actually where that elephant broke the branch. It's just from above me over here. Pulled it, broke it down, possibly tried to feed on some of the bark. We know elephants do enjoy doing that. It's wonderful, the signs and the stories we can tell just from looking at tracks and having a look around here. Now there's a larger branch over here and some fresh elephant dung. I wonder if there are any interesting insects perhaps around the dung at the moment. Let's see. Doesn't look like anything's here yet. Hold on a second, let me just get a little stick. No, I can't find one. Can you believe it? But this is interesting. So there's a patch of urine over here. It's quite wet. And then the fresh elephant dung, and there are already bugs on the dung, little beetles and bugs that are feeding and breaking down this dung. Very interesting, very coarse dung. All that plant material, the undigested food from the elephant. Oh, I actually heard an elephant scream now in the distance. You know what? I can actually hear these elephant. So it looks like this is not the same herd that we saw. This is actually a herd that is coming from, the sound is coming from this side, so maybe we get to see more elephant. So either they split, and sometimes herds do that. One herd moves off in one direction, another herd moves off in another direction, possibly just different herds. So let's have a look if I can see them. I can hear the branches breaking. That's the wonderful thing about bushwalk. Let's just have a look. Now, Bobby, you asked, isn't that plant that I showed you? I think I spotted the elephant. There they are. There we go. It's a bit tricky. Sends us straight through that little gap. You can just see elephant through there. There we go. So that is great. To see the tracks, see the fresh signs, and then to find the animal that you're looking for. That is perfect. Perfect tracking. Now, Bobby, you asked that plant that we just saw, that tree, that silver cluster leaf, isn't that the tree that leaves your mouth dry? Well, Bobby, yes. The reason for that, it's got very high tannin. It's got a very high tannin content, and that's a way that the plant protects itself. So those tannins do leave a very dry taste in your mouth. It probably doesn't affect the elephant as badly, and perhaps the elephant was just trying to get some of the bark. The bark carries a lot of nutrients in all the trees, but maybe not feeding on the leaves necessarily. However, And we've had a lot of rain, so the trees are doing very well. So perhaps the tannin content of the tree has actually decreased slightly. It doesn't have to protect itself as much. Usually what happens is trees send out pheromones to one another to warn each other if they are being overbrowsed, and that communication will increase that tannin level within those trees to help protect themselves from animals. So animals will start feeding. The higher tannin content will cause it to become distasteful, and then they'll move on and try and feed on something else. But at the moment, because it's so lush and green, perhaps the tannin levels aren't as high. But again, it looked like it only broke one branch and then moved on. So maybe it wasn't as tasty as it thought it would be. Now, I'd love to see if we can get closer to this herd of elephant. See what else we can, how many elephant there are there. I'm just always scanning around, see what else is. There's another beautiful view of that sunrise. Look at that, especially with it going just behind those clouds. Very beautiful morning, very, very beautiful morning. Can hear the elephant busy breaking branches and chewing, actually, so you can't be too far from them. That's very nice, lovely. You can hear some impala ratting in the distance. There's black-headed orioles calling not far from us, just in the trees behind me at the moment in this direction. Can't see it though, it's quite far back. Fortunately, that beautiful bright yellow bird with that black head, the black-headed oriole. It's got a beautiful call. Let's see where these Ellies are. Just scanning, just carefully. Just want to see if there aren't one or two a bit closer to us. I don't see anything just yet. Let's have a look and scan this side. As I was saying, the nice thing about being on a walk is that if you pick up fresh tracks and fresh signs, you can just listen out and you might hear the animals before you see them. Whereas on a vehicle, it's sometimes difficult to hear the animals because you are driving. And there's obviously making a lot more noise. It looks like they cut through in that direction. Let's stop and listen here for a second. Here we go. I think I can hear them. They are quite close. I'm just listening carefully. Let's just take a little walk down here quickly. Just see if we can find them and get a bit closer to them. Now, the nice thing is we are quite high up, so we'd be able to look down into this little bit of a drainage line behind us. If they are feeding through here, we should be able to see them. Okay, I'm going to see if we can find these elephant or get a bit closer to them. Let's head to Jamie, who's got some antelope to show you.
While Byron does some sneaking up on elephants, our wildebeest herd is slowly but surely sneaking out into the open area of Impala Plains. Now, this is a separate herd to the ones that we usually see around the camp, and it's lovely to see them once again. We've actually had some really special sightings with them. It's a particularly beautiful part of Djuma, this open area, and these are one of my favorite antelope to sit and watch. There's something highly entertaining about wildebeest. It may come as a surprise to some of our new viewers that they are in fact antelope. there is something cow-like about them, and a lot of people make the assumption that they are related to cows in some way. They are, but distantly. They're ruminants in the same way cows are, but they are completely antelope related. So they're part of the antelope family. Here we go, that's one of the females, and you can see if she lifts her head for us again, oh, here comes her little calf. If she lifts her head for us again, you'll have a chance to see one of the big differences between males and female wildebeest. You can see she's got that brown patch around her head, on the sort of the top of her forehead and between her horns. In male wildebeest, most of the time, male blue wildebeest, that is completely black. You've got to be careful though, because sometimes, because they have preorbital glands, a male wildebeest will rub his face in the dirt, and that sometimes creates a little bit of confusion for those people trying to tell the difference between males and females. Another really good way is to have a look at the horns and the reach of the horns. So in a fully grown female, they don't quite extend past the ears, whereas in a male they do. They go right past the tips of the ears. Here we go. There's the male over there. You can see his horns are quite a bit longer. He's got patches of his face that have been rubbed raw by rubbing his preorbital glands. Oh, I'll just have to sit down and have a quick rest. I know the feeling, Dave. Just lie down in the grass, wait for the sun. I actually feel like that's quite a good approach to life. Just plonk yourself down. Oh, up again. Have some breakfast. The reason that wildebeest are one of my favorites to watch is because there's something very, very playful about them. Especially at this time of year, since it is wildebeest breeding season. We did have a rather interesting beginning to one of our school drives the other afternoon, where the male wildebeest on quarantine was very busy spreading his genetic line as we started the show. Completely took both Dave and myself by surprise. Here we go. Heading out onto the open area. David in Napa, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. David, you want to know why are wildebeest called gnus? I was trying to think of something funny. I couldn't. My brain is just not fast enough at this time of morning. I was going to say something about they spread gnus or something, but it wasn't going to work. So we'll just have to pretend that I did come up with something very witty and urbane in response to that. One of the sort of the typical understanding of why it is gnus are called gnus is it's meant to be an almost onomatopoeic name. So the sound that the wildebeest make, the sort of oh, not the typical snort, but they make a very distinctive oh. I can't do it. I really can't. I'm useless at it. I don't actually know many people who can do that. But supposedly the gnu is meant to imitate, the name gnu is meant to imitate the sound that they make. That's one of the theories behind their names that I have encountered. So these are blue wildebeest, or our resident gnus. It's a silly word. The more you think about it, the sillier it seems. Welcome to Sherry in Ohio. You want to know how many species of wildebeest there are. Obviously, we've got the blue wildebeest out here. We've got the blue wildebeest in South Africa. That is the most common one that we see in this area. There is a second species of wildebeest in South Africa that I want to just go into. And I just want to find you a quick picture because we never see them out here. They're a high-felt species. And they are called black wildebeest. And they're very peculiar looking, which is why I want to try and find you a picture of one. Here we go. That is what a black wildebeest looks like. We don't see them all that frequently in South Africa. You have to go into the sort of central parts of the country. You definitely won't get one here. A funny little white tail and bizarrely angled horns that just look so different from our blue wildebeest. I'm trying to think. Obviously, we've got the white-bearded wildebeest that we're going to see in Kenya. So that's the third species. I'm trying to think if there's any others. I haven't encountered any others, but I'm pretty sure there are. I'm forgetting something. Also, bear in mind that they are part of the hartebeest tribe. So what that means is that there's actually, apart from wildebeest, they have very, very close cousins in the form of red hartebeest, tsessebe, those sorts of antelope that are very clearly built for speed and for stamina. The male's snorting at us. Mike, you want to know if there is a term for the wildebeest mating season in the same way that we have the impala rut. It's actually called the rut, to be completely honest with you. It's exactly the same. It's interesting, it's the same time of year, but it makes complete sense. And there's an interesting trade-off for species like wildebeest and impala that breed at exactly the same time and all sort of synchronize their calves. So reproductive synchrony comes with advantages and disadvantages. The advantages, in the case of the wildebeest and the impala, obviously outweigh the disadvantages. The disadvantages will be a sudden increase in resource utilization, because they do become weaned very quickly. But advantages, you're basically sating the predators by having your calves at once. So apart from confusing them, there's also just only so many calves that they can eat in one go. So that is why the wildebeest and the impala and so on will synchronize their breeding cycles. And that's why, as we look at our wildebeest glancing across, that is why we've got a whole load of calves in this herd, and all the wildebeest herds that we see, that are pretty much exactly the same age. Interestingly enough, it will differ from area to area. So in this area, there's quite a wide range in the time at which impala give birth. So anywhere pretty much from November to January, even February at times. And the same applies to the wildies. But go into Eastern Africa, and those impala lambs are born pretty much within 2 weeks of each other, with very little difference in the time at which they're born. So it's interesting that that is very much a... what's the word I'm looking for? It's very much seasonal and area related. Here's another male at the back, over there on the right. He's the one that's been snorting away at me. It's interesting what I've noticed, while we've spent so much time with the wildebeest herds, is the males tend to be the more nervous ones. They tend to be the ones that hang around at the back. You can see his black face and horns extending past his ears. Hey, pretty boy. Much thicker neck than the females as well. Our Bobby, speaking of our blue or our brindled gnu, you want to know where are their stripes. They're not as clear as something like a kudu. So if we have a look at, let's say if we can take one of these females, just because they've sort of popped out and they're a bit clearer than that male. The stripes run along down past their necks. There you go. They look, it looks like wrinkles on their skin. It's not just wrinkles, there are darker strips of fur. Those are the stripes over there. And essentially, like most striped animals, we don't know exactly why they have stripes. The predominant theory is that it helps to break up the outline of the animal to a predator's eyes. So in other words, it's a form of disruptive coloration. And it's just basically, and imagine if you are a predator, they don't have eyesight that is as keen as ours, or see nearly as well in terms of color. So you can kind of see how that would work, just to break up the shape or the outline of the wildebeest. And there's lots of different approaches to that. There's the white stripes of the kudu. Again, that makes sense because they live in very dense vegetation. So with dappled sunlight, white would be the color that would work the best. whereas the blue wildebeest or the brindled gnu, they will live in the more open areas. I don't buy that though completely. I think nature has another reason. There's some research to suggest that stripes on animals, you can see this calf hasn't got its stripes properly yet. Oh, it is having a jolly good scratch. There's a lot of research now into the way in which stripes can act as a way to disrupt insects, particularly things like tsetse flies, insects that fly and then land on the animal and bite them. And the idea is that perhaps stripes might actually interfere with their depth perception and make it more difficult for them to land on an animal. And that to me is also a very plausible theory. Tiny little horns sticking up. Bear in mind that calf is probably only about 4 months old, maybe 5, but already like a little miniature adult, complete with horns. Lorena, you say you think... Hello, boy. Come to join the group. You say that their fur... You think that their fur looks like crushed velvet. It does, doesn't it? They are in perfect condition at the moment. So are the impala. All of the antelope, having coming through our rainy season, so there's been lots of food around. Wildebeest do actually... I have to say they have quite a smooth coat. I've touched wildebeest before, on many different occasions. I find their coat quite smooth. Their skin is phenomenally tough. And they're also quite large antelope. I was once called in an area that I was busy doing research in. There was a wildebeest that had died for some reason. I can't remember why. Something happened to it. It might have been pneumonia or something. It wasn't a disease. But we were invited to go and collect it and to take it somewhere and then put up a camera trap to capture brown hyenas and to start sort of researching into their population. Let me tell you something. A person of my size should not be tasked with lifting a wildebeest onto the back of a pickup truck. It was highly entertaining, I can just assure you. Great fun. And also I've had a chance to experience in several different capacities just how tough that skin really is. It is so tough. It just goes to reinforce one of the reasons why lions will go for the softer areas when they start to feed off the animals they've caught. That is very pretty, Dave. Oh, that is beautiful. Autumn color scheme, rising sun, canoes. Interesting question from Andy and quite a few other people wondering why there are no oxpeckers on the wildebeest. 2 reasons. 1, it might just be that the oxpeckers haven't got around to finding them yet. And 2, interestingly enough, although they do have exoparasites, so they do carry ticks, wildebeest, strangely enough, seem to be very, very tick resistant. What I mean by that is typically they have about half the average number of ticks on them compared to an animal of a similar size. So let's say something like a kudu, or maybe even a zebra, I guess, although a zebra's a little bit larger. But they're much of a muchness. Funnily enough, there's something about wildebeest that they just carry less parasites. Perhaps it's their skin. Perhaps their skin is extra specially tough. But there is an interesting phenomenon with them. So you don't necessarily see as many oxpeckers around wildebeest herds. That is not to say that you won't, though. I think the oxpeckers just haven't found them yet. They haven't arrived. They perhaps have found a herd of impala or something that might be a bit more rewarding. So you don't always see oxpeckers when you find general game species. It's not an inevitable thing. I'm going to continue on and go and see whether or not our hyenas are out on this beautiful morning. Let's find out why Byron is sitting or standing with a termite mound.
Well, Jamie, I'm standing here because I thought that we did see some mongoose on top of that termite mound, but they've gone inside and they're not coming out again, unfortunately. I thought we have seen these big elephants. It would be nice to see a little mongoose, but it doesn't look like they're coming out. Now, we did track and find those elephant earlier. They were moving, unfortunately, away from us and down towards a thicker area, so it just wouldn't have been ideal for us to try and follow them through there, but they were basically directly east of where we are now, so just in that direction they were moving down. It looked like a herd of, we could see about 5 or 6 elephant, but there were possibly more, but it was very thick. So again, it's not worth trying to follow through thick areas. We might still bump into 1 or 2 along the way here, so we are just looking around, but they did move off away from us. It was nice to see them though, so we did find the elephant, but unfortunately just moving away from us. So we haven't had any lion tracks or spider webs. We haven't had any lion tracks this side again, so these lions I think definitely did go all the way west, and as some of the other guides did see. So I know Jamie said she was going to head towards the hyena den. Now we have seen a lot of hyena activity though, up and down the roads. See if I can find a fresh track for you. There were a few earlier. I'm just having a look. Not at the moment. Now that's typical of hyena. They don't necessarily just follow a path and stick to it. Hyena will zigzag and they'll move all over the place. They probably, I find, one of the hardest animals to actually track if you are looking for them, because they cover huge distances, and when they are walking they'll wander off into the bush for 50 meters and then decide no, they want to come back this way, and they'll just turn and come back along the road again. So they're constantly changing direction depending on what scent or what smells they can pick up. Because they are scavengers, they rely so much on their scent. And one of my friends actually mentioned the other day, he thinks that a hyena is probably the best tracker in the bush, and I have to tend to agree with him, because hyena are able to find lions, find leopards, find cheetah, and if there's any little alarm call or anything, they know exactly where to go to try and scavenge food from those other predators. So I definitely think he's right by saying that a hyena is probably the best tracker in the bush. Let's see, I was happy to hear that Taylor found a giant eagle owl, or Verreaux eagle owl. I was mentioning yesterday or the day before, haven't seen one for ages around here, and last year, I can't remember what time of year it was, but we would hear them almost daily. We'd hear eagle owls, or the Verreaux eagle owl, in different areas, especially those drainage lines not far from camp, but I haven't heard them here for quite some time. I suppose just general movement when food is available and water, but I'm glad that Taylor managed to find one. I wonder if it'll stick around. It would be wonderful to see one of those beautiful owls again. Alright, and speaking of Taylor, let's go see how her morning's going and whereabouts she is at the moment.
We're meandering around on Cheetah Plains at the moment. We were very excited at one point because we had some very fresh lion tracks, mom and cubs. Most likely the Styx Pride. It sounds like they've actually done a bit of moving around, because the tracks that we had were fairly fresh, and it seems as though they have located them on a net, which is exciting, so at least you know where they are, and they are going towards the Chitwa, just up in front of the road. Some young ones, some adults just moving about. There's some more coming to join. So maybe that's going to be on the cards. However, they have said that the lionesses are not particularly happy. And there was a bit of a crime scene too. The hyenas were fighting over what sounded like an impala. So obviously those lions must have caught that impala, and as the hyenas came through, the lionesses would have been sort of, well, I think it would have so I don't know with the cars at all. and they're very protective about their little ones, so maybe we'll give that a skip today and try a little bit later this afternoon. They're still on their way to Chitwa. Crested Franklins, enjoy your morning. Don't get eaten by a eagle or anything like that. Whatever may be looking for you today. But we are going to carry on checking around here. I don't know if there's anybody driving on Cheetah Plains this morning. I did hear Andrew quite early on, one of the Cheetah Plains guides. So hopefully I'll be able to have a chat with him a bit later and see which areas he's driven and if he has picked up on anything. We went past the Djuma Dam. That's the route we went. We went a little bit further to the west and done a big loop and come back around. And there wasn't much there, unfortunately. Lots of hyena activity, but no hyenas to go with all of the footprints that they left behind. So hopefully as we move further out towards the open plains, we're going to start to see some animals, maybe our zebras that we've been seeing a couple of times, the ones that like to hang around on the big open plains. It would be nice to see them again. Maybe some elephants or a big herd of buffalo would be great too, but we have to just keep searching, of course. And maybe Verreaux, maybe he's going to pop up again around Buff Pan, or perhaps make another appearance on Cheetah Plains Pan. I'm just deciding. It looks like some cars have gone down there. So let's go this way, take a road that nobody has driven just yet this morning, and that should be good for us because it might be nice and clear, nice and flat, and we could see the track quite nicely. Let's see who's been walking here. There are some tracks. Let me just find one that doesn't have... This road has not been driven in a very, very long time. Are those hyena tracks or are those lion tracks? Let me see if I can find a better one. Difficult to see. They look quite old. They don't look particularly fresh. And now, of course, they've disappeared. It's so hard to see. I'm trying to find a clear one that you can all see nicely. I think it's hyena. Let's give it a bash. Let's just see. We're going to go a little bit further away. They're not very clear tracks, unfortunately. But there's one here. There's actually two here. It goes like that. So here's a foot. Just over here, here's the back of a pad, and I can only see, straight away, I can only see the two lobes. So must be a hyena. That's really all it could be with a foot this size. Could be wild dogs, but unfortunately this track's a bit too broad. The wild dog tracks are a little bit sort of more slender, if I can say that. And then here's another foot here, most likely the front foot. This one looks slightly larger than this one over here, which would be a back foot. And because hyenas have almost got a sloping back, all their power is in their shoulders, like the big cats, of course, is that their front feet are much larger than their back feet. But my best example of a scenario like that is actually with brown hyenas. If you want to see a foot a third of the size of a front foot, have a look at a... Oh my goodness, that's a very, very brave fly wherever you are. Come back again and I'll show you. I'll teach that fly a lesson. Right, let's get back in. But yes, have a look at the brown hyena tracks. They're really cool. Right, now you've got to find the cable. Yeah, plugged in. Right, let's carry on. Let's see. But not very fresh hyena tracks. I think they're from, most likely from yesterday sometime, maybe yesterday morning. No, Annette, you're wondering if we mark the animals in any way. Good morning, Annette. No, not us personally, we don't. However, there was a project many moons ago where the sand parks actually came in and they collared some animals. They collared wild dogs, they collared lions, elephants, just to explore and start learning about and well, sort of forming research thesis about various animals. We're just going to go under this little branch. So there were quite a few animals. However, since then I know that they have tried to remove those collars. So every now and then you'll see an elephant that has a collar on. I've seen wild dogs that have got collars on. Obviously wild dog research is very important, especially with any vaccination programs that they are doing. They need to keep tabs on the packs so that if they are to vaccinate them, which I know they have started doing, then they'll do that. But remember that this area is 8.5 million acres of land. It's quite a large vicinity. So when animals just disappear off the radar and perhaps the batteries die in the collars, it's very difficult to try and find them again. You just sort of got to hope that someone spots them and reports a sighting with an animal that has a collar in, and then from there the experts can go through and they'll dart the animal and most likely remove it, because I don't think the elephant research projects are going on like they were. And I'm talking 15-20 years ago. It's a very, very long time ago. But the collars don't normally inhibit the animals at all. They make them as light as possible and in a spot where they're not going to sort of get in the way and cause any disadvantage to the animal, which is quite nice. But technology has also come a long way now, so it'd be interesting to see what the sort of new high-tech collars would look like. Which is, it'd be interesting to see. But I haven't seen animals, unfortunately, with collars on for quite some time, which is actually quite a good thing. It's nice not to see them tagged, but remember, it is very important, though, for research purposes out in a big area like this. Jamie, however, she's found herself a smaller mammal.
Well, this is something that could help us in terms of tracking down animals. A sharp-eyed squirrel who is very cross about something. The difficulty is, of course, with squirrels, that something could be another squirrel, it could be a snake, it could be a slender mongoose, it could be a leopard. It's very difficult when you don't speak squirrel to try and work out exactly what's made them angry when they're in this kind of a mood. So it's alarm calling, complete with tail flick. I've been trying to work out where it's looking, but it seems to be relatively inconsistent about that as well. Look at it. Oh, so cross. What have you seen? It's always worth just stopping whenever you hear a squirrel alarm call. It sounds like a witch's cackle. And it's worth stopping just to have a look. With their advantage of height, you never know what they might have spotted that you haven't seen. I can't find anything though. Dave and I have been sitting here for the last 5 minutes or so, and I haven't picked up on any sign of a leopard or a lion popping out. I was hoping maybe Tingana would treat us to a surprise appearance. Oh, gone now. The one thing that I think counts against a leopard is the fact that there was another squirrel closer to Dave and myself that doesn't seem to be concerned at all. So it could well be a fight between two squirrels or a snake in that particular tree. Either way, I don't think it's a leopard. It was worth stopping to check, though. And just by the way, thank you to all of those of you who sent through the updates about the lion roaring. I was a little bit too far to hear it, but I'm heading in that direction. Maybe we get lucky. The unfortunate thing is I can't ask you which way the sound came from, which doesn't help. One last very slow travel along. Well, since there isn't any leopard, it serves as the perfect time to let you all know that in order to celebrate Wild Earth's 10th birthday, there will be some limited edition t-shirts, clothing, and so on, which are very, very exciting and lovely. And if you would like to get more details on that, if you'd like to purchase a t-shirt, a limited edition birthday t-shirt, 10 years old, you can follow the link that has popped up or will be popping up on your screen. And you can have a look at our social media pages as well and follow the links from there. There we go. There's your link. That's where you need to go in order to go off and purchase some exciting once-in-a-lifetime, I mean, you only turn 10 once, you know, and once-in-a-lifetime supplies. I want one. A hoodie would be good right now. An extra hoodie. Brr. Wet hair and early mornings. Not a sensible combination at all. Lou, I would wear a scarf, but I can't find mine. I had it yesterday. I think I left it in the tent. Silly me. Can I have that one? Oh, Davy. Thank you. Such a gentleman. And hello to Skip, who is 12 years old. Now that I've tucked myself up all nice in my scarf. Or Dave's scarf. Thank you, Dave. Skip, welcome. Skip is 12 years old and would like to know if we have any chipmunks. We don't, and I've actually never seen a chipmunk, and I would love to see a chipmunk. It's the the spiderweb interpretive dance. I would absolutely love to see a chipmunk. I've never seen one. The only chipmunks I've seen are the animated ones. So we get squirrels. Squirrels are pretty much the closest you can get to a chipmunk out here. We get squirrels, but that's about it. No prairie dogs, no chipmunks, just squirrels. And we do enjoy their company, but I would love to see a chipmunk. Skip, have you ever seen a chipmunk? I would love to see one. Maybe one day you can show me one. Ah, very good question coming through from Red, who would like to know if our squirrels hibernate during the winter. No, they don't. The behavior out here is very, very different to areas in much colder climates. Our squirrels don't hibernate. None of our animals actually technically hibernate. Reptiles out here do estivate, and that's purely because it gets very, very dry. So it's basically the dry equivalent of hibernation. It's not about the temperature. It never gets particularly cold out here, so it's not as though the animals have to slow down their metabolism and tuck themselves away somewhere warm. The squirrels will continue to be active throughout the year. And active they are. The only thing that happens is they spend a bit, or try to, spend a bit more time in the camps and in the rooms. Did I ever tell you about the time I walked into the room in that hot, hot summer last year, and there were 3 squirrels spread out under our fan, on our bed, with the fan cooling them down? Horrible creatures. And they defecated on the bed. And they find a way in. Speaking of things finding a way in, I'm going to make my way towards our hyena den. Let's go and find out what footprints Byron has found.
Now, Jamie, while you're making your way to the hyena den, I think you may be in luck. These tracks, okay, we're actually a little far from the hyena den, but see the scuff mark in the sand. Now, some of you might be thinking, what is that obscure track? But this whole track is from a hyena. Now, what has happened here is very interesting. And it's in soft sand, that's why it's not very clear. But also, what's made it obscure is this hyena is running. Now, if I stand up and show you, you can see there is one track. The next one is only over here. Now look at that. We call that the gait of the hyena. That's the stride, if you will, of any animal. We call it the gait. So from one track there to another track there, there's another one over here. So what's happened is this hyena is actually running. Now it may have heard either lion or leopard or some alarm calls. Not sure exactly, but we'll see where these tracks go. But what's happened is this hyena has gone into a full stride. It's running very, very quickly. And judging by that gait, that's a huge gait. That hyena is definitely at full tilt, running very, very fast, trying to get to whatever sound it may have heard or smell it may have picked up on. And often what happens is when they are running fast like that, you may get a front track and then a hind track in front of that. I'm just trying to see. This looks like a front track over here, and this looks like a back track there. So front, and occasionally what may also happen is the tracks land within each other. So the front track and then the back foot lands in the same spot and they're running. But very clear hyena tracks running along this road. So I wonder what it heard. I'm not sure, but we'll have a look around this area and see if we can't find anything, any sign of what may have caused this hyena to run like this. But it is fascinating. I love doing this tracking and finding little signs like this of animals, and it tells a whole story. We don't know what happened last night. We're in the safety of our camp, and it's all quiet and peaceful. We hear lions, we hear hyena, we may even hear leopard at times, but we don't really know what they get up to in the evenings. I think there's so much that goes on that we do miss, but it is obviously difficult to follow them at night. And I mean, we struggle to find them during the day. Imagine in the evenings, unless you happen to bump into them along the road walking around. Haven't seen anything else around at the moment. Elephants seem to have all moved off away from us, and it's been fairly quiet. No antelope. Few birds. We did see a little fork-tailed drongo briefly flying above us trying to catch an insect. It was quite entertaining to see it. Tried to take 1 or 2 dives, but the insect was just too quick and agile, and it managed to move away from the bird. Now, Lemon Eye Drops, you asked, how do I tell the difference between front and back paws or back feet when we are tracking? Let me see if I can find one and try and gauge. You see, unfortunately, because this hyena was running, it's difficult to actually see a clear track to show you. So one thing, the easiest thing with hyena, the front paw is larger than the back paw, and the reason for that is the hyena needs longer legs in front. Obviously we know they've got that sloping back, but more power in the front legs, and also they're carrying a heavier weight. They're carrying that big neck and that big head, so the front paws are much larger than the back. And same with lion, same with leopards. Front paws are always larger than the back paws, so you can tell that immediately just by size. And I remember we did a tracking assessment once, and we got to a hyena track which is easy to identify. Once you get into tracking, it is very easy to identify. I mean, they could show you half of a track and you'd be able to tell what it is. We got to a track, it was a little obscured. I'd say 3/4 of the track was very, very clear, but what they then asked was, right, is it a front or hind track, and is it left or right? So that was another little tricky little question that they threw at us, but we actually got it. And I'll see if I can find a track and see if I can show you if it's left or right or front or back. Maybe this hyena started to slow down. Doesn't look like it. No, it still ran this whole way. That's amazing. But just to give you an idea, the hyena track, if it had stood over here, the front track, as we know, is much larger than the back track, and then we know the back pad of the hyena has a little slope at the back. It's got 2 lobes. My drawing is terrible. Can you see that? 2 lobes over there at the back, but there is a slant at the back. So that slant would indicate that this would possibly be the left track, and if it's slanted the other way, that would be the right track. So slanting inwards slightly. Just at the back, it does have a sorry, does have a slight little slant on it, but it's easier if we can show you. I'll try to see if I get a really clear track. I'll try find and show it to you. All right. Well, I'm going to try walk a little bit quicker, get out of this area, get down towards a more open area, see what we can find. Let's head to Taylor and see how her morning's going.
You will not believe what has literally just developed in this second. Sebastian and I were talking about how barren it is today out in the bush, and I said, wouldn't it be nice if we could see some ground hornbills? They normally save us out here, and as we've come around the corner, there they are. There are 5 of them moving through the long grass. How cool is that? I cannot believe it. We were just speaking about them, and I'd said that, and you know, a number of times the hornbills have come through and they've saved me, either sitting up in a tree, but I'll take them walking through the long grass. And just so you all know, this is Sebastian's favorite bird to film. He specifically said he loves to get close-up shots of them because they've got the most luscious eyelashes, and they do too. They've got beautiful eyes. Let's see if we can perhaps move a little bit closer, but we all know what hornbills are like. They can be a little bit on the shy side, so we'll just move it probably 20 or 30 meters forward, and then we might have to stop again. Otherwise we could risk them flying off, and I don't want to do that. They are quite active this morning. They're sort of bouncing about. Well, that's interesting. We haven't seen 5 together for a very long time, so I wonder if it is a new family perhaps moving in from the Kruger or just popping in for a little visit. You never quite know. But the ones that we've seen here have normally only been a group of 4. I didn't see any particular small ones, so I don't know if it is, maybe there's a juvenile in this family group. But also I think I've got, no, just more hyena tracks. Just also going to keep an eye out here. There's quite a few buffalo footprints, which is good for us. Oh, there they go. They've actually just flown and landed up into a tree. Now I could hear Andrew, and I've been trying to get hold of Andrew all morning. There, someone's trying to talk to him. Look how beautiful. I don't know what he was talking about though, if it was lions or what he was saying, but I would like to have a chat to him. Oh, hang on. I think there's a leopard around here. Let's have a look at the hornbills. I'm going to chat to Andrew now. Andrew for Taylor. I'm just trying to get hold of Andrew. I do apologize. Just because we're right here, and it sounds like he's got a male leopard just north of Buff Pan, which is literally 200 meters from us. So I'm going to try and, once we've had a look at these hornbills, keep up with him. Look at that hornbill at the back. It's got a grasshopper in its mouth, a big one too, which is quite nice. Let's see if it's going to throw his head back while he's perched in a tree. Typically they don't feed when they're up in trees like that. They're normally foraging down on the ground and will toss it back. We know that the yellow-billed hornbills can feed on the ground and while they're perched. But this will be something new and interesting for me to watch. Andrew for Taylor. Andrew, I'm just here with ground hornbills just east of Buff Pan. Please may I come and join you? I know I've been trying to get a hold of you as well, just bad comms. Thank you so much. I'll come into that area now. So I'm just having a chat to Andrew as we watch these hornbills, of course. I've finally been able to get hold of him for the first time this morning. It sounds like he did have a male leopard very quickly at Buff Pan, but as you know with Buff Pan, it's right on the boundary. So he said that this leopard has gone north off of their traverse, but we'll go through. And if it is quarantine, he might come weaving back onto the road as he does a territorial patrol. So we'll go and have a look. But for the moment, Andrew can't see anything, so I don't think we need to just race off there just yet. We'll take a moment to enjoy this beautiful hornbill sighting. How cool is this though? 1, 2, 3, 4. They all look like adults. There are none that look like juveniles. The fifth one is flown off to the other side. Now, a pack of animals, you've said that we seem to see a lot of these hornbills. Perhaps they're not as endangered anymore. A pack of animals, I wish that was the case. We have just been exceptionally lucky this morning to have seen 2 different family groups of hornbills. This is not an everyday occurrence. This is not even a monthly occurrence. It happens few and far between to see sightings like this. So really do count yourself exceptionally lucky, especially that they are so relaxed and not performing for us, because normally what we do see when we find the hornbills is them darting off into the long grass or into a thicket and out of sight. So we don't often get to spend too much time with them either, and when we can, we will indeed spend as much time as we can. So that's very exciting to see this in a new family group. We were seeing, at one point we were seeing a family 5. One of them had a juvenile, if I'm not mistaken, but unfortunately that chick sort of just disappeared at one point, and we didn't see it again. So it's nice to see. And this is sort of the typical size that you have of a family group. I don't think I've ever seen more than 5 hornbills together before, and that's because it's of course one dominant breeding pair, and the others will actually help raise that one chick. It takes them almost 7 years to reach adulthood, and for those 7 years they'll walk around begging constantly, making a sort of low-pitched chirping noise, constantly reminding the adults that I'm always hungry and I need to be fed 24/7. But fantastic, and with the beautiful light on them this morning too. Let's try our luck. Let me see if I can roll. Can we roll? Go, Chica. Come on, Sebastian. 1, 2, 3. That's not working. We'll get a little bit. Okay, we're just going to get a bit of momentum now. We're going to go stealth mode in. Now, Rakesh, as we roll on into the sighting, you've asked if we only find these birds in Africa. Yes, we do. I haven't seen... Oh, there they go. I haven't seen too many hornbills anywhere else. Well, not these big southern ground hornbills, of course. Look how beautiful they are when they fly. They've got beautiful wings. Remember, I think the feather that I had yesterday was from a southern ground hornbill. I'm going to keep going because they're just sort of moving. So if we keep like that, I'm going to just go forward again because now they're quite far away. So southern ground hornbills we only see in Africa. However, when you start going to different parts of the world, you might see birds that look similar. And they could be very distant cousins, of course. But they won't be the exact same species or from maybe even probably the same genus. But maybe different subspecies, of course. But we see lots of different birds that are quite similar, but these ones are special. I suppose you could maybe say, but now I'm not giving these birds enough credit, so I feel like if I'm saying this, I'm about to downgrade the hornbill. But the closest bird that I can think that looks like a southern ground hornbill is a turkey. And well, I don't really want to look at the hornbills like they're turkeys, because those are amazing, gracious things. There's a couple of them, they've just moved off. They're going, just flying off into the distance. There they go. And there they're sitting. Oh, Rebecca, that's fantastic. I have to agree with you this morning. You said that you think the southern ground hornbills would make a great villain in a Disney movie. I concur. I think that is great. And what can you imagine the next Lion King? Then, you know, not Scarface, but the Hornbills. I don't know if it's got as much of a ring, but you could sneak them in somewhere. They might not have to be the main role, but they could definitely fall into an African-themed movie, which would be quite nice. So that's quite cool. What a great... We're having a fantastic day. Let's keep going forward, though. We're going to go all the way around the dam very quickly. We're at Buff Pad now, and we're going to go and figure out which leopard was here, and if he's going to be seen with us again, or if he's just decided that he's now disappeared into the north. So I'm going to drive a little bit quicker through it, maybe a bit bumpy, but we're going to keep racing, and hopefully I'm going to come back to you with a spotted cat. But let's jump back on board with Jamie and see how her morning is treating her.
I really hope that Taylor manages to catch up with quarantine. That would be an epic way to continue our sunrise safari. And speaking of epic, because it is our 10th birthday and we are now double digits in terms of Wild Earth and the company, we are running a special shop. We're selling limited edition t-shirts and other products that you will be able to purchase for a limited time only. So if you are interested, you can follow the link that is about to pop up onto your screen. There we go. There you are. That is the way in which you will be able to purchase limited edition t-shirts, all in celebration of Wild Earth's 10th birthday. I hope you all enjoy that. I know I want one. I'm sure you'll all join in the purchasing of said t-shirts. It is quite a milestone, you know. So much has happened, and the company Wild Earth has been through so much, and we have a great deal to be thankful for, and for great teams both past and present. Just bear with me one moment. Standing by. What am I saying? I don't know. FM, I picked up on tracks for one. I've seen there's tracks for a male lion on Chelepan Road, also going towards Weaver's Nest, but I think it's probably the same male. Okay, copy that, thanks. Apparently there was also audio of lions calling about half an hour ago, heard on the dam camera, so I'm just following up in this area. Negative. I only drove a small portion of it around Chelepan, just crossed over to Vulture's Nest. Alright, apparently the baboons are going mental outside final control. Is it a discipline thing, or is it because they've seen the lion that was roaring? That is the question. And what I mean by discipline is sometimes there's internal skirmishes between various members of baboon troops, but it could be a leopard, it could be a lion. Let's race across and see. Oh, hold on, Dave. It would be horrible if I threw you off, especially after your kindness in giving me your scarf. That would be a very poor way to repay you. I do want to keep it, yes. In fact, maybe I should throw you off. There's no tracks for the lions around here. I'm sure there will be tracks on this road, because that's where I heard one of the males roar from last night. But let's go and see what's upset these baboons. There's always a limit, there's always a time limit on alarm calls, if there are alarm calls. Yep, there's the male's tracks. No, never mind, that's a hyena. Alright, let's go see what's bothering the baboons. Keep an eye on the damn camera for me. If you see anything exciting on it, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. By exciting, I mean a lion or a leopard, or I suppose anything's exciting really, but maybe not if it's a blacksmith lapwing. I'm going to race across and see what's happening with these baboons. But the one wonderful thing about bushwalk is it brings you closer to the ground.
It does indeed. Well, good luck, Jamie. I hope you find something. We're a little bit too far from there. I can't hear the baboons, unfortunately. We're right down in the southwest at the moment. Now I can just see very clear hyena tracks, and I wanted to show you what I was explaining earlier about the front and back, or the left or right. And here we can see this is probably, there's a clearer one. Yeah, well, this is quite a nice one. Here we go. We've got two tracks here. So that larger one over there looks like a front track, and that is the front right. You can see the back little slope over there of the back pad, just through there. So that would be front right, and this over here looks much smaller. This looks like a back left, because it slopes that way. Do you see that? So the slope would start from the highest point on the inside of the track and slope down outwards. So left, and then the right track over there. And then there's some other little interesting tracks that I can see. Look over here. There's some little marks there, and they come over here. There's some really clear ones up ahead. Look at this. Very cute little tracks. Now there's actually a little back pad over there, and then little toes around the front. So this is a front and a back track, that the back track's actually overlapping the front one slightly. And this little track is from a genet. That's what that is. So this would have been from last night, a little genet moving around. Beautiful, clear little tracks. Lovely, lovely little tracks of the genet. Senzo actually saw a genet this morning. He was up quite early, and we do have genets coming around the camp at night, and he says he saw one not far, just on the little gate at our camp. So the first for him, apparently. You'd never seen one before, eh, Senzo? Yeah, there we go. So first time he's seen a little genet. I see it's walked up and down the road here. I wonder what those baboons are alarm calling at. Maybe there's a leopard or something that's popped up, or lions. Starting to warm up a little bit too, and also I find a lot of the time we do say, early in the mornings, some predators don't like to move around as much, so they'll wait for it to warm up a bit, just like it is now. It's not too hot, but it has warmed up a bit, and they'll start moving around, and then we might bump into them. Now, Paris from Greece, you wanted to know how long, or firstly, how wet and rainy it is in our winter in South Africa, and how long does our winter last? Well, firstly, most of South Africa, it's actually not wet at all during winter. The only place that really gets winter rainfall is Cape Town. So down in the southwest, Cape Town, they get winter rainfall because on the edge of the ocean down there, so they get winter rainfall. The rest of South Africa gets summer rainfall. So the winters are actually very, very dry, so you don't have to worry about rain, number one. The cold, it doesn't get nearly as cold, obviously, as Europe or America or anywhere like that. The winters, the coldest part of South Africa, down in the Karoo, probably maybe -5, -10. That's about the coldest we get. Obviously, up in the mountains, it might get a bit colder. We do get snow up in the Cape and the mountains and on the Drakensberg, so it might get a little bit colder up there. But generally, the coldest temperatures are about between -5 and -10. Then our winter will last, I'd say, from about May, June, July. That's generally the 3 coldest months. August, it starts to warm up again and it becomes quite pleasant. It can still be a little bit chilly, but not nearly as cold. So 3-4 months, call it 4 months of cold, but not nearly as cold as what the rest of the world is used to. And then summer months, obviously summer months are lovely, very warm, very beautiful, very green, but generally a lot of rainfall in most of South Africa, except in the Cape. The Cape gets very dry in the summer because they don't get a lot of rain, but because of the heat, obviously everything dries up. Some zebra tracks over here. There's a very clear zebra track, look at that. There we go. And there's the middle of the hoof. Looks like a small zebra, young zebra walked along here. Possibly with a herd.